Chapter 1. The Fateful Kiss at the Masquerade Ball. New York, on a cool October evening, the lights from skyscrapers reflected off the wet pavement after a light rain. Scarlett Hayes, 28 years old, stood before the mirror in her luxurious penthouse in Manhattan, her deep blue eyes gazing coldly at her reflection. She wore a long black dress that hugged her body, accentuating her slender, yet strong figure. Her dark brown hair was tied up neatly, not a single strand daring to escape her control. Scarlett wasn't one for ostentation, but tonight she had to leave her office, where she had built the high-end fashion brand Velvet Thorn from nothing, to fly to Los Angeles for an extravagant masquerade ball. Scarlett didn't like parties. She had grown up in an orphanage on the outskirts of Brooklyn, where dreams were a luxury no one dared to mention. From a little girl with nothing but her bare hands and an iron will, she had clawed her way to the top of New York's fashion industry, turning Velvet Thorn into a name that every fashion enthusiast had to respect. But the price was a closed-off heart. To Scarlett, love didn't exist. Only work, reason, and the numbers on a balance sheet were reliable. "Scarlett, you can't keep living like a machine." Lila's clear voice, her assistant and only friend, had rung through the phone a few hours earlier. "I've already booked your flight. The ball in LA tonight is a chance for you to relax a little. Do it for me, please." Scarlett sighed, packing a black feathered masquerade mask into her suitcase. She didn't want to go, but Lila was partly right. She needed to maintain connections with the elite to keep Velvet Thorn growing. And so here she was, standing in the lobby of the Luminary Hotel in Los Angeles, where the ball was being held, the mask covering half her face, her full red lips the only striking feature amidst a sea of strangers. Tatu! In another corner of the city, Logan Bennett, 30 years old, stepped out of a sleek black Bentley, his naturally tousled blonde hair and signature half-smile making him look like he just walked off the pages of a fashion magazine. As the heir to Bennett Enterprises, a conglomerate owning a chain of hotels and real estate stretching from the East Coast to the West, Logan lacked for nothing: money, fame, and admiring glances from women. He was notorious for his playboy ways, appearing with a new woman every week in the tabloids, but few knew that behind his carefree exterior was a man who quietly cared for those around him. Logan hadn't planned to attend the ball. He was only in LA to check on the progress of a new hotel project, but when his manager Tom insisted it was a chance to meet big investors, Logan shrugged and agreed. "Fine, but I won't stay long," he said, slipping on a simple silver mask that left his sparkling ocean blue eyes exposed. For Logan, events like this were just a place to find fleeting amusement, a glass of whiskey, some small talk, and maybe a kiss from someone interesting enough to linger in his mind until morning. The masquerade at the Luminary took place in a grand ballroom, its soaring ceiling adorned with dazzling crystal chandeliers. Guests in extravagant costumes glided past one another, their laughter mingling with the music from a live orchestra. Scarlett stood in a corner of the room, holding a glass of champagne but not drinking, her sharp eyes scanning the crowd. She wasn't comfortable with the noise, but Lila had dragged her into a group of new acquaintances, wealthy, youthful people who clearly didn't know how to stop talking about themselves. "Scarlett, you have to play a game with us." Lila, wearing a white swan mask, tugged at her arm with excitement. "It's simple. Just pick a stranger, kiss them for 10 seconds, then walk away. No names, no talking. Think of it as a little adventure for your dull life." Scarlett frowned, her voice icy. "I don't have time for silly games." "Oh, don't be so stiff." Another girl in the group wearing a cat mask giggled. "It's just a challenge. If you don't do it, we'll make you drink that whole bottle of wine over there." Scarlett glanced at the expensive bottle of wine on the table and sighed. She wasn't afraid of the wine, but she hated being coerced. "Fine," she said, her tone flat as if signing a business contract. "But just once." Lila clapped her hands and cheered, while Scarlett stepped away from the group, her high heels clicking rhythmically on the marble floor. She didn't intend to take the game seriously, just pick someone, get it over with, and head back to her hotel. Her eyes scanned the crowd, a man in a garish red tuxedo dancing wildly, another in a devil mask chuckling with friends. None of them were worth approaching, until she saw him. He stood alone by the bar, tall in a black suit, a silver mask covering half his face but not hiding the strong line of his jaw. He held a glass of whiskey, his long fingers tracing lightly around the rim, his demeanor relaxed yet solitary amid the noisy throng. Something about him made Scarlett pause. Not his looks, but the strange stillness he exuded, like a cool breeze in a scorching desert. Without thinking further, she walked toward him. Logan was sipping his second whiskey, his gaze drifting idly over the crowd, when a figure appeared in front of him. He looked up and his heart skipped a beat. The woman before him wore a black dress, a feathered mask concealing her eyes, but her full red lips were an irresistible invitation. She said nothing, just stood there, staring at him with a challenging look he couldn't decipher. "Sorry, do I know you?" Logan asked, his deep voice laced with curiosity. She didn't answer. Instead, she stepped closer, so close he could smell her perfume. A blend of jasmine and sandalwood, elegant yet mysterious. Before he could react, she placed a hand on his shoulder, pulled him down, and her lips met his. It wasn't an ordinary kiss. Her lips were soft but forceful, like an unexpected wave crashing over him. Logan felt her warm breath, his heartbeat quickening as an invisible spark ignited between them. He was stunned, too caught off guard to respond, standing still as the sensation spread through him. The kiss lasted exactly 10 seconds. He counted, his rational mind clinging to some semblance of control. But when she pulled away, he felt as if a piece of his soul had been taken. She said nothing, just turned and walked away, her graceful figure disappearing into the crowd before Logan could recover. He stood there, still clutching his whiskey, his breathing slightly ragged. "What just happened?" he muttered, his lips curving into a puzzled smile. That kiss was unlike any he'd ever experienced. Not because it was brief or sudden, but because it left him with a strange emptiness, as if he'd found something precious, only to lose it in an instant. Logan set his glass down, his eyes sweeping the ballroom. He didn't know who she was, her name, her face, or anything about her. But one thing was certain: he had to find her. Scarlett returned to her corner, her heart beating faster than usual, though her face remained coldly composed. Lila rushed over, her eyes gleaming. "Oh my God, you actually did it! With who?" "It doesn't matter," Scarlett replied, her voice even, but in her mind the feeling of the kiss lingered. It shouldn't have affected her. It was just a stupid game, a moment of impulse. So why did she feel like she'd just touched something dangerous? She glanced back at the bar one last time. The man in the silver mask was still there, his gaze seemingly searching the crowd. Scarlett turned away, telling herself she'd never see him again. But deep inside, a small voice whispered that fate had its own way of arranging things. Chapter 2. An Unexpected Reunion and the First Storm. Scarlett Hayes stepped into the meeting room at Velvet Thorn's headquarters in New York, her high heels tapping steadily on the marble floor. Today was an important day. She needed to convince a major investor to help expand her high-end fashion brand into Europe. Dressed in a fitted gray suit, her hair tied up neatly, and her deep blue eyes radiating cold confidence, she exuded the unshakable poise of a CEO who had risen from an orphanage to succeed in New York's cutthroat world. The kiss at the masquerade ball in Los Angeles a few days ago? Just a fleeting memory, not worth her concern. But when the meeting room door opened, Scarlett nearly faltered, though her face betrayed no emotion. Sitting at the head of the table, in a deep navy suit, was Logan Bennett, the heir to Bennett Enterprises. No silver mask hid his face this time, but she recognized him instantly. The naturally tousled blonde hair, the sparkling blue eyes that seemed to laugh, and the mischievous half-smile she'd seen by the bar in L.A. Logan recognized her too. He tilted his head, his smile widening into a curve that was unmistakably overconfident. "Hello, Ms. Hayes, I'm Logan Bennett," he said, his deep voice warm, but laced with a teasing edge. "I didn't expect to see you again in such serious circumstances. How have you been since that memorable night in L.A.? Scarlett gripped her stack of documents tightly, but her expression remained icy. She stepped forward, shaking his hand briefly and stiffly. "Thank you, Mr. Bennett. I hope we'll have an efficient meeting," she replied, her tone even, as if he were just a random stranger. Logan let out a loud, easy laugh that made his two assistants and Lila, Scarlett's assistant, turn to look. Efficient? With me, it's guaranteed, he said, winking at her. But I'd bet you'll surprise me again. You've got a knack for that, don't you? Scarlett sat down, ignoring the wink and his suggestive words. But inside, a flicker of unease began to creep in. Logan wasn't just a business partner. He was a walking troublemaker, and she'd sensed it from the very first moment. The meeting began, and Scarlett presented Velvet Thorn's expansion plan with flawless precision and persuasiveness. Logan listened, but his eyes stayed fixed on her, not the PowerPoint slides. When she finished, he clapped slowly, his smile never fading. "Wow, Ms. Hayes, I've got to say, I'm captivated," he said, his tone a mix of seriousness and jest. "Not just by the plan, though it's great, but by the way you talk. Cold, sharp, just like how you kissed me in L.A." Lila nearly choked on her water, while Scarlett pressed her pen hard into her hand. "Mr. Bennett, we're here to discuss business," she said, her voice hard as steel. "If you want a joke, I suggest you find someone else." Logan laughed louder, leaning back in his chair with shameless ease. "Joke? No way, I'm dead serious. That kiss was the highlight of my week. You're not pretending to forget it, are you? Because I remember every second." Scarlett met his gaze, her eyes icy. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said, then turned to Lila. "Are we done here?" But Logan wouldn't let her off that easily. "Not yet," he interjected, his voice cheerful. "I'll invest, but on one condition. You have to have dinner with me. Just to go over details, I swear." He raised his hands as if taking an oath, but his wide grin was anything but trustworthy. "Thanks for the offer, but I decline," Scarlett said, standing to gather her materials. "I'll contact you via email if needed." She left the meeting room, leaving Logan sitting there with an undimmed smile. He turned to his assistant, whispering, "The colder she gets, the more I like her. Think I've got a shot?" The next day, a vibrant bouquet of blue roses appeared on Scarlett's desk. Lila brought it in, her eyes gleaming with curiosity. "Someone's making a big move," she said, setting the flowers down. "There's a card, too." Scarlett glanced at the bouquet, her brow furrowing. She opened the card, and a handwritten note appeared. "A kiss that memorable, and you forgot it already? Don't be so cold to me, Logan." She crumpled the card and tossed it into the trash. "Idiot," she muttered, but Lila didn't miss the faint flush on her cheeks. "Logan Bennett!" Lila exclaimed. "Oh my God, Scarlett, you kissed him in L.A. for real? Why didn't you tell me?" "There's nothing to tell," Scarlett replied curtly, turning back to her computer. But in her mind, Logan's shameless grin lingered, disrupting her focus. Logan didn't stop there. That evening, he coincidentally showed up at a fashion event Scarlett attended in Soho. Dressed in a light gray suit, a glass of wine in hand, he made a beeline for her. "Ms. Hayes, you're good at dodging me," he said, his tone teasing. "But fate clearly wants us to keep meeting." Scarlett sighed. "Mr. Bennett, do you have something important to say, or are you just here to bother me?" "Bothering you is my top priority right now," he replied, winking. "Have dinner with me. I know a killer pizza spot in Brooklyn. You can't say no to pizza." "I can and I will," she said, turning away. But Logan called after her. "You'll regret it. I'm great at karaoke. I'll serenade you next time." Scarlett didn't respond, but her lips twitched slightly. Not quite a smile, more an annoyed reaction to his audacity. The big twist came a week later, when Scarlett traveled to San Francisco to meet a fabric supplier. She stayed at the Fairmont Hotel, and after a long day, she decided to unwind at the hotel restaurant with a glass of red wine. Logan appeared as if he had a radar for her. He walked in, his light gray suit deliberately rumpled, a wide grin on his face. "Ms. Hayes, I knew you couldn't live without me," he said, plopping down across from her, uninvited. Scarlett sipped her wine, maintaining her composure. "Mr. Bennett, are you stalking me?" No, just destiny," he replied, ordering a glass of wine. "But if you want, I'd happily stalk you for life. Don't you find me charming yet?" She started to stand up to leave, but Logan jumped in. "Don't go. Let me tell you a joke. Why'd the astronaut break up with his girlfriend? Because he needed space." He laughed loudly, clapping for himself. Scarlett sighed, but this time she stayed. Maybe because of the wine. Maybe because his ridiculousness unexpectedly relaxed her. They started talking, and Logan wove silly jokes with surprising wit. When dinner ended, he escorted her to her room, his chatter unrelenting. "Let me sing for you?" he asked, standing at her door. "I'm killer at Sweet Caroline." "Don't," she said, but Logan started anyway. "Sweet Caroline, ba ba ba." Scarlett pulled him inside just to shut him up, and then, in a moment neither expected, they kissed. It was intense, lingering, and before she could think, they tumbled into the dimly lit room together. The next morning, Scarlett woke up beside a snoring Logan, his arm draped over her like they'd been lovers for years. She slipped out of bed quietly, dressed, and headed to the airport without looking back. One thought ran through her mind: I can't let this idiot disrupt my life. But when Logan woke up to an empty bed, he burst out laughing. "Running again, Hayes? Fine. The game's just getting started," he muttered, determined not to let her slip away so easily. Chapter 3. Pregnancy, a life-changing twist. A month after the fateful night in San Francisco, Scarlett Hayes sat in her Manhattan penthouse, staring at the pregnancy test in her hand. Two red lines appeared clearly, an undeniable declaration. She stood still, gripping the edge of the sink, her deep blue eyes reflecting in the mirror without a flicker of emotion. Pregnant. The word echoed in her mind like an explosion, but her face remained as cold as ice. Scarlett, 28 years old, CEO of Velvet Thorn, had never let anything slip beyond her control. She had grown up in an orphanage, without parents or family, and built her fashion empire from scratch with her own hands. A baby? Just another challenge, and she didn't need anyone's help, especially not Logan Bennett, the shameless fool who had unwittingly landed her in this situation. She sat on the sofa, hand resting on her stomach, and whispered to herself, "I'll keep it a secret. I'll raise this child alone." The decision was made swiftly and decisively, just like how she ran her company. She began to plan, find a trustworthy doctor, arrange her work schedule for rest when needed, and ensure no one, not even Lila, her assistant and best friend, suspected a thing. To Scarlett, this wasn't a problem. It was a task to be completed. Meanwhile, Logan Bennett continued living the life of a playboy heir, but Scarlett Hayes lingered in his mind like a song stuck on repeat. He'd tried contacting her after that night in San Francisco, sending messages like, "You left me behind like a pair of worn-out socks, I'm hurt," or accidentally showing up at events she attended. But Scarlett ignored him completely. It didn't discourage him. It only fueled his excitement. "She's my biggest challenge yet," he told Tom, his manager, while sipping whiskey at a bar in the Lower East Side. "Cold women are my specialty. Don't I look like James Bond to you?" Tom shook his head. "You look more like a clown." Logan laughed heartily. "A clown she notices is worth it." One Wednesday afternoon, Logan stopped by a private hospital in the Upper East Side to meet a doctor friend. He strolled into the lobby, hands in his pockets, whistling Sweet Caroline, when his eyes landed on a familiar figure. Scarlett, dressed in an elegant black trench coat, stood near the reception desk holding a piece of paper. Logan tilted his head, curious, and stepped closer, close enough to see it was an ultrasound report with the faint image of a fetus. He froze, his smile fading. "No way," he muttered, then recalled the night in San Francisco. His mind raced. "She's pregnant? My kid. Why didn't she say anything?" He was about to confront her, but Scarlett turned and walked away, her demeanor as cold and resolute as ever. He stood there rubbing his chin, then broke into a laugh, a mix of surprise and exhilaration. "She's really hiding this from me? All right, Hayes, you just made this even more thrilling." At first he assumed she was keeping it from him to avoid trouble, a reaction he'd seen from other women. But when he called Lila, under the pretense of discussing a contract, and learned Scarlett had no intention of contacting him or asking for anything, Logan was genuinely shocked. She didn't need money, fame, or him. It irritated him and impressed him. "I can't let her do this," he told himself, his wide grin returning. "This is my kid, and I'm not going to be some deadbeat dad. She can freeze the whole world, but I'll keep chasing her." A few days later, Logan showed up unannounced at Velvet Thorn's office. Scarlett was in a meeting with the design team when Lila knocked, her face panicked. "Boss, Logan Bennett's outside. He's got a speaker and a huge bouquet of flowers." Scarlett frowned. "What?" Before she could react, music blared from the hallway. Sweet Caroline, with Logan's off-key voice booming. "Sweet Caroline, ba ba ba, you can't hide from me, Ms. Hayes." She stood abruptly and marched out, finding Logan in the middle of the office lobby, holding a Bluetooth speaker in one hand and a vibrant bouquet of red roses in the other, his shameless grin shining like the sun. Her employees whispered among themselves, some giggling, while Lila covered her mouth to stifle a laugh. "Mr. Bennett, what the hell are you doing?" Scarlett demanded, her voice icy, arms crossed. Logan turned off the music, stepping closer and holding the flowers up like a trophy. "I'm here for a serious talk, Ms. Hayes. Won't you invite me in? I brought these gorgeous flowers. Not everyone gets this treatment from me, you know." Scarlett glanced at the bouquet, then turned to Lila. "Call security," she said, her tone flat. "Whoa, hold on." Logan raised his hands, feigning panic but still smirking. "Don't kick me out yet. I know the deal. You're pregnant, right?" The lobby fell silent. Scarlett stiffened, her sharp gaze slicing through him. "What nonsense are you spouting? Get out now, or I'll sue you for harassment." Logan didn't budge. He tilted his head, grinning widely. "Sue me? Go ahead, but I bet you won't. That night in San Francisco, you and me, I've done the math, Hayes. I'm not dumb." Scarlett stepped forward, her voice low and menacing. "I don't know what you're talking about, and I don't care. Leave now, or I'll call the police." Logan stood his ground, holding the flowers like a shield. "Hear me out first. Marry me, just temporarily. I'll take care of you through the pregnancy. Cooking, coffee, singing lullabies. I'm great at it, you know? After the baby's born, if you want to kick me out, I'll go. No drama, I swear." Scarlett stared at him, her eyes burning with fury. "You're insane," she said, then turned to Lila. "Get him out, now." Two security guards approached Logan. He raised his hands in surrender, but his mouth kept running. "Rejecting me so fast hurts, you know. But it's fine. I'll be back. You can't get rid of me that easily, Hayes." As they dragged him out, he shouted, "I make killer coffee. You'll regret not trying it." The door slammed shut, and the office returned to silence. But Scarlett's heart raced faster than usual. She went back to the meeting room, ignoring her staff's curious stares, though a nagging unease began to settle in her chest. Logan didn't give up. The next day, a bouquet of roses appeared at her office door with a card. "I'm not mad about getting kicked out. Have dinner with me. I'll tell you some jokes." "Logan!" Scarlett tossed the flowers in the trash, but Lila secretly retrieved them, whispering, "Boss, he's pretty funny. Why not give him a chance?" "Never," Scarlett replied, her voice icy. But Logan kept at it. He sent emails titled, "10 Reasons You Should Marry Me, Temporarily," with lines like, 1, I'm handsome. 2, I can sing. 3, I won't bug you. Too much. He stood outside the Velvet Thorn building with a handwritten sign, "Ms. Hayes, give me a chance," causing a stir among clients and staff. Scarlett called security every time he showed up, but Logan just grinned and yelled, "The more you push me away, the more I like it. I'm patient, Hayes." One evening, as Scarlett left the office late, she saw Logan leaning against his Bentley holding a coffee cup. "I made this for you," he said, offering it. "No singing, no flowers, just coffee. Take it and I'll leave." Scarlett glanced at him, her gaze cold but not summoning security. She walked past, ignoring the coffee, and got into her car. Logan watched her go, laughing loudly. "See? I'm making progress. Next time you'll take the coffee. Just watch." Scarlett drove off, her hands gripping the wheel tightly. She didn't want to admit it, but Logan's persistence was starting to make her notice him. Just a little. Chapter 4. Living Together, When Love Begins to Bloom. After Logan Bennett's relentless pursuit, from belting out Sweet Caroline outside her office, sending flowers with witty notes, to holding signs in front of Velvet Thorn's headquarters, Scarlett Hayes finally gave in. It wasn't because she wanted to get close to him, but because his astonishing persistence had pushed past her limits. By the 4th month of her pregnancy, her body felt heavier, and though she hated to admit it, managing everything alone was no longer simple. One rainy evening, Logan showed up at her penthouse door, drenched from head to toe, holding a cold cup of coffee, and said with his signature half-smile, "Ms. Hayes, I'm not going anywhere. Let me help you, at least until our baby's born." Scarlett looked at him, her deep blue eyes cold but no longer as sharp as before. "Fine," she replied, her voice even. "But this isn't marriage, and it's not a relationship. We're just living together. And if you drive me crazy, I'll kick you out immediately." Logan smirked, his triumphant grin tinged with mischief. "You just signed a deal with the most perfect man in New York. I'll make it so you can't live without me." And so Logan moved into Scarlett's Manhattan penthouse. For her, it was a practical decision. She needed support during this phase. And Logan, though slick-talking and flirtatious, was at least the baby's father. But for Logan, it was a golden opportunity to prove he wasn't just sharp in business, but also in winning over the icy heart of the woman who captivated him. The early days of living together were a silent battle. Scarlett didn't want to rely on anyone, and she set a clear boundary between herself and Logan. She still ran Velvet Thorn with absolute precision, went to work daily, and spoke to him in curt phrases like, "Don't make noise," or "I don't need your help." Logan, with his characteristic stubbornness, was determined to breach that wall, inching his way into her life with his intelligence and unexpected care. On the first morning, he took over the kitchen before she woke up, pulling a heap of ingredients from the fridge and diving into cooking. When Scarlett stepped out, she smelled something burning. Logan stood there, pan in hand, his face smudged with smoke, but his confident smile unshaken. "Good morning, Ms. Hayes. I made you some eggs sunny side up. They're a bit dark, but I call it Gothic style. Fits your fashion vibe, right?" Scarlett eyed the mess on the counter, then him. "You don't know how to cook, do you?" Logan shrugged, his tone smooth-talking. "I'm a genius in many fields, but cooking, I'm still learning. Sit down, I'll make you almond milk. Better than Starbucks, guaranteed." She sighed, sitting at the table, not because she wanted to, but because she was too tired to argue. Logan bustled around the kitchen, eventually bringing her a warm cup of almond milk. Not bad, though he spilled some on the floor. "See, I'm the perfect man," he said, winking. "You'll be hooked on my skills soon." From then on, Logan began tending to her bit by bit. He researched pregnancy-friendly recipes online, though the results were often odd dishes he confidently dubbed culinary masterpieces. He made almond milk every morning, adding a touch of honey because, "I read it makes the baby smart like its dad." He drove her to prenatal checkups, despite her insistence. "I have a driver." "But your driver can't tell jokes as well as I can," Logan shot back, laughing heartily. "You need me to keep your spirits up. Doctor's orders." Scarlett didn't argue, though sometimes she couldn't hide the faint curve of her lips at his slick remarks. Gradually, sweet moments began to weave into their shared life, slipping in like sunlight through a crack in the curtains. One evening, when Scarlett complained about not sleeping well because of her growing belly, Logan disappeared for a bit and returned with a giant bear-shaped body pillow nearly as tall as him. "What's this?" Scarlett asked, frowning. "A body pillow for you," Logan said, placing it on the sofa with pride. "I ran out to the store to get the best one. They say pregnant women need this to sleep well. Try it. I bet you'll dream of me tonight." Scarlett glanced at the pillow, then at him. "I don't need it." "Just try it," Logan urged, nudging it toward her. "If you don't like it, I'll keep it. I'll name it Little Scarlett and cuddle it every night. You'll get jealous, just watch." She sighed, reluctantly hugging the pillow to her chest. That night, she slept better. Not because of the pillow, she told herself, but because she was exhausted. Logan didn't need a reason. Seeing her keep it was enough for him to clap and declare, "I knew it. I get you too well." On nights when Scarlett couldn't sleep, Logan turned into an unstoppable story machine. He sat by her bed, since she still wouldn't let him share her room, and started, "Know why the astronaut dumped his girlfriend? He needed space. Funny, right?" Scarlett lay there, eyes half closed, her voice flat. "No." "Come on, you're too tough." Logan laughed loudly. "Fine, another one. There was a cat on a roof. I don't want to hear it, Scarlett cut in, but her tone had softened. Logan tilted his head, grinning mischievously. If you won't listen, I'll sing. Sweet Caroline, your choice. She stayed silent, and though his chatter was irritatingly smooth, it somehow relaxed her. She wouldn't admit it, but Logan's presence, loud and stubborn as it was, had become an essential part of her days. The sweetest moment came one evening as Scarlett sat on the sofa, reviewing company documents. The baby suddenly kicked hard, making her pause, her hand instinctively resting on her belly. Logan, fumbling in the kitchen with a tray of freshly baked goods, noticed immediately. He rushed over, set the tray down, and knelt in front of her. It kicked? He asked, his eyes lighting up like he'd won the lottery. Scarlett nodded, saying nothing. Logan hesitated, raising his hand. Can I feel it? She almost refused, but his eyes, free of their usual mischief and full of tenderness, stopped her. She gave a slight nod, and Logan placed his hand on her belly. The baby kicked again, and he laughed loudly, the sound filling the room. Wow, it's strong. Definitely takes after me. Smart, handsome, and restless. Scarlett watched him, his gaze now that of a true father, not just a flirtatious charmer. She felt the warmth of his hand, and for the first time, she didn't pull away. Though these moments grew more frequent, Scarlett still denied her feelings. She didn't believe in love. To her, it was a luxury she'd never needed. Logan might be smart, thoughtful, and surprisingly gentle, but she told herself he was just a temporary part of her life. One evening, Logan brought her a tray of homemade pastries, this time not burnt, and set it in front of her with a confident grin. See, I'm your dream chef. Eat up. I made these for you and the baby. Scarlett looked at the pastries, then at him. You're doing this out of duty, not for me, she said, her voice cold. Logan tilted his head, laughing heartily. Duty? No way, Hayes. I'm doing this because I like you. Since that kiss in L.A., and even more every day here. Don't you see? I'm this stubborn because of you. She froze, her gaze wavering for a second, but then she turned away. Don't talk nonsense. I'm tired. Logan didn't press, just shrugged. Keep denying it, but I know you're softening. I'm Logan Bennett. No one resists me for long. Scarlett walked to her bedroom and shut the door, but as she lay down with the giant pillow, her heart beat faster than usual. She told herself it was the pregnancy, not Logan. Deep down, though, she knew she was wavering, and that scared her more than any challenge she'd ever faced. Are you still following the stories from Soul Stories? Share your thoughts and feelings about today's story in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more meaningful and heartfelt stories from Soul Stories. Chapter 5. Misunderstanding and Separation. Life together in the Manhattan penthouse had settled into a strange but steady rhythm for Scarlett Hayes and Logan Bennett. By the 7th month of Scarlett's pregnancy, her belly was noticeably round. And though she maintained her cold exterior, Logan's presence, with his sharp wit, smooth talk, and relentless persistence, had become an indispensable part of her days. He made almond milk every morning, told silly jokes to relax her, and placed his hand on her belly whenever the baby kicked, his rare, tender gaze softening his usual charm. Scarlett didn't want to admit it, but her heart was wavering, though she kept telling herself it was just a fleeting feeling, not love. But on a frigid Tuesday morning in New York, everything changed. Scarlett sat on the sofa, holding a cup of ginger tea Logan had brewed, a habit he stubbornly stuck to because, it's good for you and the baby, I read it online. Lila, her assistant and best friend, walked in with a stack of work documents and a tabloid magazine she'd picked up from the building's lobby. Boss, this hit the stands this morning, Lila said, placing the magazine on the table with a curious smile. Logan Bennett's in the news again. Scarlett glanced at the magazine, unbothered. Logan was always a media darling, a flirtatious heir to Bennett Enterprises, so his name in the headlines was nothing new. But as her eyes skimmed the bold title on the cover, her heart stopped. Logan Bennett set to marry ex-lover, Bianca Rossi. Wedding of the century imminent? Below the headline was a photo. Logan, in his familiar navy suit, standing beside a stunning blonde with a model's tall, slim frame. Bianca Rossi, a name well known in New York's elite circles, beamed brightly, her arm lightly linked with Logan's, while he looked at her with his signature half-smile. The article read, "Insiders reveal that Logan Bennett and Bianca Rossi, whose romance fizzled out 3 years ago, have rekindled their old flame. A lavish engagement is reportedly in the works at the Bennett family estate in the Hamptons." Scarlett set the teacup down, her hand trembling slightly, though her face showed nothing. Lila, sensing the unusual silence, looked up. "Boss, you okay?" "I'm fine," Scarlett replied, her voice steady, but inside a tempest raged. She picked up the magazine, reading every line, every word, each one stabbing into her chest like a knife. Logan, the man who'd been by her side for months, making her milk, cracking jokes, resting his hand on her belly with that gentle look, was about to get engaged to someone else. She wasn't surprised he was a playboy. She'd always known that. But what broke her heart was the thought that everything he'd done for her, the care, the persistence, the sweet moments, was just a game. She was merely a temporary piece in his life, a duty he had to fulfill before returning to his real world. A world with Bianca Rossi, lavish parties, and women far more suited to him than her, an orphan who'd never belonged in his realm. Scarlett stood, tossing the magazine into the trash. "Don't let Logan in here today," she told Lila, her voice icy. "I have things to do." Lila opened her mouth to ask something, but Scarlett's piercing look silenced her. She nodded and left, leaving Scarlett alone in the vast apartment. She placed a hand on her belly, feeling the baby kick lightly, and for the first time in years, a hot tear rolled down her cheek. She wiped it away quickly, telling herself, "I don't need him. I've never needed anyone." Logan had no idea of the storm brewing. He was at Bennett Enterprises headquarters, meeting with his management team about a new hotel project in Miami. His phone buzzed with a text from a friend. "You're in the news, Bianca Rossi, huh? Playing the field again." Logan frowned, opened social media, and saw the article about his engagement. "Bianca," he muttered, bursting into laughter. "What the hell is this?" Bianca Rossi was an ex from 3 years ago, a brief fling he'd long forgotten. They'd run into each other at a charity event the previous week, posed for a polite photo, and the press had blown it out of proportion. Logan wasn't worried. He was used to the media's antics. He planned to call Scarlett and share it as a joke. "See how famous I am." But the meeting dragged on, so he decided to explain when he got home. But when he returned to the penthouse late that night, carrying a box of pastries from Scarlett's favorite bakery, something felt off. The apartment was eerily quiet. The living room lights were off, and when he called out, "Hayes, I'm back, got a treat for you," there was no reply. Logan stepped into Scarlett's bedroom, and his heart sank. The closet was empty, her suitcase gone, and on the table sat a single note with a brief message. "Don't look for me." He stood frozen, the pastry box slipping to the floor. "Where'd she go?" he muttered, then rushed to the building's security guard. The guard said Scarlett had left that afternoon with a small suitcase, saying nothing about her destination. Logan called Lila, but she replied coldly, "She doesn't want to see you." Logan rubbed his face, his mind spinning. He wasn't stupid. He knew what had happened. The Bianca article. Scarlett must have seen it, and with her cold, resolute nature, she'd assumed he was toying with her. But what panicked him wasn't the misunderstanding. It was that she'd left at 7 months pregnant, vanishing without a trace. "She really thinks I'm some playboy jerk?" he asked himself, laughing bitterly. "Fine, Hayes. You run, I chase. I'm more stubborn than you think." Scarlett left no clues. She'd departed New York on a night bus, avoiding credit cards or her phone to prevent being tracked. To her, this was the only way to shield herself and the baby from Logan, from the pain of trusting someone only to find it was all a lie. She rented a small apartment in suburban Philadelphia under a fake name, a quiet place she knew Logan would never guess. She sat on an old armchair in her new home, hand on her belly, her blank gaze fixed out the window. The baby kicked hard, as if to comfort her, but she whispered, "It's just the two of us. Mommy won't let anyone hurt you." Scarlett was heartbroken, though she wouldn't admit it. The months with Logan, the almond milk, the giant pillow, the smooth-talking jokes, had made her believe he truly cared. But the Bianca story shattered that illusion. She told herself she wasn't surprised. He was Logan Bennett, a notorious flirt, and she was just a pawn in his game. What she hadn't expected was how much it hurt to leave. She wiped her tears, stood, and began organizing her new life. Her phone was off, her bank account rerouted through an anonymous channel, and she severed all ties to New York. To Scarlett, this wasn't running. It was reclaiming control, as she always had. Meanwhile, Logan refused to give up. He scoured the apartment for clues, called everyone who might know something about Scarlett, but no one had answers. He showed up at Velvet Thorn's headquarters, Bluetooth speaker in hand, shouting, "Hayes, come back! I'm not engaged to anyone, I swear!" But Lila just watched through the glass, shaking her head. Logan sat in his car, hands gripping the steering wheel, his usual smooth grin replaced by a grim expression. "You think I'll let you go that easily?" he muttered. "I'll find you, even if it takes my whole life." He didn't know where Scarlett was, but he was certain of one thing. He loved her. Not as a game, not out of duty, but truly. And with his stubborn streak, he wouldn't stop until he found her. Chapter 6. Proving True Love. Logan Bennett had never known despair until Scarlett Hayes vanished from his life. The Manhattan penthouse, once filled with his smooth-talking laughter and her stubborn coldness, now felt empty and terrifying. The note she left on the table reading, "Don't look for me," pierced his heart like a dagger. But Logan wasn't the type to give up easily. He was smart, persistent, and above all, he knew he loved her, even if he'd realized it too late. The article about Bianca Rossi, that ridiculous rumor he'd scoffed at, was the reason Scarlett had left. Logan didn't blame her for the misunderstanding. He blamed himself for not explaining sooner, for not showing her that she and the baby were all he wanted. Now, with her 7 months pregnant and gone without a trace, he had one mission: find her, even if he had to turn the world upside down. Logan began his search that very night. He scoured the apartment, checking every drawer, every scrap of paper, hoping for a clue. There was nothing. Scarlett was too meticulous, too skilled at severing all ties. He called Lila, but she replied coldly, "She doesn't want you to know. Leave her alone." Logan didn't waver. He showed up at Velvet Thorn's headquarters daily, Bluetooth speaker in hand, shouting into the street, "Hayes, I'm not engaged to anyone. Come back. I swear you're the only one I want." Staff peered at him through the windows, some chuckling, but Lila just shook her head, refusing to help. He turned New York upside down. He visited every place Scarlett had ever been: the Italian restaurant she liked in Soho, the bakery in Greenwich Village where he'd bought her pastries, even the private hospital in the Upper East Side where he'd first seen her with the ultrasound. He questioned doctors, staff, anyone who might know something, but no one had answers. Scarlett was like a ghost, completely out of his reach. Logan didn't give up. He hired private investigators, tapped every connection in high society to dig for leads. But Scarlett had hidden herself too well. He drove through nearby cities, Boston, Hartford, Philadelphia, stopping at every hospital, every hotel, asking with faint hope. "She's 7 months pregnant, tall, brown hair, blue eyes, cold as ice," he described to anyone who'd listen, but it led nowhere. Every night he returned to the penthouse, sitting on the sofa with the giant body pillow he'd bought her, clutching a glass of whiskey. "You're good at running, Hayes," he muttered, his usual smooth grin replaced by exhaustion. "But I'm more stubborn than you think. I'll find you." 2 months passed and Scarlett's pregnancy reached its final stage. She lived in hiding in a small apartment in suburban Philadelphia, a quiet place she was certain Logan would never find. She worked remotely, managing Velvet Thorn via email and burner phones, keeping contact with Lila minimal to avoid being tracked. But at 9 months, labor pains began to strike, and she could delay no longer. One early morning, when the pain became unbearable, Scarlett called a taxi to the local hospital, a small facility called Mercy General. She was wheeled into the ER, clutching her belly, breathing hard but her face still resolute. "I'm fine," she told the nurse. sweat beading on her forehead. Just do what you need to do. Meanwhile, Logan wasn't far away. After weeks of dead ends, a PI finally uncovered a lead, a small transaction from Scarlett's anonymous account for rent in Philadelphia. Logan didn't hesitate. He drove from New York to Philadelphia immediately. No rest, no food. Driven by one thought, find her before it's too late. He arrived at Mercy General by sheer chance, guided by a hunch that if Scarlett gave birth, she'd pick a small, low-profile hospital to stay under the radar. As he stepped into the lobby, hands in his pockets, hair disheveled from the wind, he heard a nurse call over the intercom. "Mrs. Hayes, room 304, preparing for delivery." Logan froze, his heart pounding. "Hayes," he muttered, then bolted up the stairs, skipping the elevator. He reached room 304 just as Scarlett was wheeled into the delivery room. She lay on the bed, pale with pain, but her eyes still sharp and cold. When she saw Logan burst in, gripping the doorframe, she stiffened. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice weak but laced with anger. "You think I'd let you have this baby alone?" Logan replied, panting. He stepped forward, ignoring the nurse's glare. "I've looked everywhere for you, Hayes. You're good at running, but I'm more stubborn than you think." "Get out," Scarlett said, but her voice broke as another contraction hit. Logan didn't listen. He knelt by the bed, grabbing her hand despite her attempt to pull away. "I'm not going anywhere," he said, his voice low but firm. "You can kick me out 1,000 times, but I'm here for you and the baby. Got it?" The nurse tried to intervene, but Logan turned, his smooth grin flashing despite his red-rimmed eyes. "I'm the father. Don't kick me out. I can sing lullabies, super useful in a delivery room." Scarlett had no strength left to argue. The labor pains swept her away, and Logan stayed, holding her hand through it all. He didn't leave her side for a second, even as she gripped his hand until it bruised. When the baby's first cry rang out, a healthy girl, Logan laughed loudly, tears streaming down his face. "See, Hayes? She's like me, loud and strong." Scarlett lay there, exhausted, watching as the nurse placed the baby on her chest. She said nothing, but silent tears fell, not from pain, but from Logan's unwavering presence beside her, despite everything. When the delivery room quieted, leaving just the three of them, Scarlett, Logan, and their little girl, Logan sat by the bed, still holding her hand. The baby slept peacefully in Scarlett's arms, and for the first time, she didn't pull away from him. Logan took a deep breath, his voice softening, stripped of its usual slickness and brimming with emotion. "Hayes," he began, looking into her eyes. "I know you hate me because of that stupid rumor. Bianca's nothing, just a photo, a made-up story. I don't blame you for leaving. I blame myself for being too slow to say this." Scarlett stayed silent, her gaze flickering. Logan went on, his voice trembling. "I love you. Not just today, not just since that night in San Francisco, but since that first kiss in LA. I love how cold you are, how you push me away, how you make me chase you like a madman. I'm a flirt, but I've never been serious about anyone like I am with you. I was too slow, and I almost lost you, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." He squeezed her hand, tears rolling down the handsome face that usually wore a cocky grin. "I don't need you to forgive me right away. I just need you to know you and this little girl are my whole world." Scarlett looked at him, her heart breaking open. She'd run, denied, built 1,000 walls to protect herself, but now hearing Logan's words, she couldn't hold back. Tears spilled down her cheeks and she nodded, whispering, "I'm so scared of being abandoned. I'm terrified. I don't want to go through that again." Logan smiled, a mix of joy and choked emotion. He leaned down, kissing her forehead, then the tiny hand of their daughter. "You don't have to be scared anymore," he said. "I'm stubborn as hell. You know that. I'll be here no matter how many times you try to kick me out." Scarlett didn't reply, but she squeezed his hand lightly. A small gesture, but to Logan, it was a promise. They sat there together, their baby girl sleeping between them, and for the first time, both felt that fate had brought them exactly where they belonged. Chapter 7. A happy ending. A complete family. The hospital room at Mercy General in suburban Philadelphia grew peaceful after the tense hours of labor. Scarlett Hayes lay on the bed, her body weary but her deep blue eyes now glowing with a gentleness she'd never shown before. Beside her, Logan Bennett sat in a chair, still holding her hand, his gaze fixed on their little daughter, sleeping soundly in her mother's arms. They named her Evelyn, a name Logan suggested, while beaming at her. Sounds like a star's name, right? Just like her dad. Logan lifted Evelyn into his arms, cradling her close, a radiant smile spreading across the handsome face that usually wore a mischievous grin. "See, Hayes," he said, his warm voice laced with his trademark smooth talk. "She's our masterpiece. Beautiful like you, strong like me. No one can resist this family." Scarlett glanced at him, the corner of her mouth twitching upward, though she didn't reply. She wasn't used to this feeling. A small family, a real home, something she'd never dared dream of during her years growing up in an orphanage. But looking at Logan, the man who'd scoured New York to find her, who'd held her hand through the delivery, she knew everything had changed. A few days later, they left the hospital to return to New York. Scarlett didn't protest when Logan insisted on bringing her and Evelyn back to the Manhattan penthouse. "You can't keep living in that tiny apartment in Philadelphia," he said, steering the car, his eyes gleaming with confidence. "My daughter needs space to grow into a superstar, like her dad. And you need me to make almond milk. Don't deny it, I know you're hooked." Scarlett sighed, but this time she didn't argue. She was tired of building walls, and deep down, she wanted Evelyn to have a family, something she'd never had. Life at the penthouse soon blossomed into a vibrant, happy picture. Logan, with his sharp mind and stubborn streak, transformed into a devoted father in a way that surprised even Scarlett. On their first day home, he stood at the changing table, holding a diaper with a serious expression, as if negotiating a $1 million deal. "All right, Evelyn, stay still. Daddy's got this in the bag," he declared. 5 minutes later, he turned to Scarlett with a wide grin, the diaper crookedly taped to one side of the baby's bottom. Want to show me how? I'm a business genius, but this is a bit out of my league." Scarlett shook her head, stepping over to fix the diaper, but she couldn't hide a rare smile. "You're hopeless," she said, her tone softer than usual. "Hopeless but lovable, right?" Logan winked, scooping Evelyn up when she was properly diapered. He held her close, singing an off-key Sweet Caroline, making her giggle while Scarlett covered her ears in mock annoyance. "See, she loves my singing. I should record a family album," he said, laughing heartily. Logan didn't stop at diapers. He taught himself to make formula, researching recipes online, and experimenting until Evelyn drank it without a grimace. The first time he succeeded, he held the bottle up like a trophy, shouting, "Hayes, I did it! I'm the perfect dad!" Scarlett just glanced at him, but her eyes, once cold, now shimmered with warmth. Evenings found Logan carrying Evelyn around the living room, spinning silly tales he made up on the spot. Once upon a time, there was a superhero named Logan, handsome, smart, and a pro at making formula. He began, gazing at Evelyn with pride. He saved the world by making his little girl and her mom smile every day. Evelyn, too young to understand, grinned widely, while Scarlett sat on the sofa, pretending to read documents but secretly listening, her lips curving slightly. A year passed since Evelyn's birth, and their little family grew ever closer. Scarlett returned to work at Velvet Thorn, but she was no longer the woman who lived only for her job. She made time for Evelyn, playing with her, and occasionally let Logan drag her into his goofy antics, like hosting family parties with homemade pizza, though he still burnt one corner. Logan, while still running Bennett Enterprises, devoted most of his time to his wife and daughter, proving he was more than a flirtatious smooth talker. He was a man who knew how to love. One autumn evening, when Evelyn turned 1, Logan decided to act on a plan he'd been nurturing for months. He prepared everything in secret, enlisting Lila to watch Evelyn so he could be alone with Scarlett. When she walked into the penthouse after a day at work, she was stunned to see the living room adorned with twinkling string lights and blue roses, the kind he'd sent her when he first pursued her. "What are you doing?" Scarlett asked, frowning, but her voice held curiosity rather than coldness. Logan emerged from the kitchen, wearing the navy suit she'd always liked, a mischievous grin on his lips. "Ms. Hayes," he said, his tone warm, I've got an important contract to sign with you tonight. Scarlett crossed her arms, eyeing him suspiciously. What contract? Logan didn't answer right away. He stepped forward, dropped to one knee, and pulled a small box from his pocket. When he opened it, a sparkling diamond ring appeared. Simple yet elegant. Perfectly her style. She froze, her heart racing. Scarlett, he began, calling her by her first name without haze for the first time, his voice serious yet tinged with his usual charm. I know you think I'm a flirt, stubborn, and a bit of a pain, but you've changed me. From that kiss in LA, through the days you kicked me out of your office, to when you gave me the chance to be Evelyn's dad. I don't just want you to be the mother of my child. I want you to be my wife, forever. He looked up, his blue eyes shining, devoid of mischief and full of sincerity. I love you, Scarlett. I've loved you for a long time, and I'll never stop proving it, whether you say yes or not. But I hope you do, because kneeling like this is killing my knee. Scarlett stared at him, silent tears streaming down her cheeks. She'd run, denied, built 1,000 walls to protect herself, but now, faced with Logan's proposal, she couldn't hold back. She nodded, her voice choked. Yes, I'll marry you. Logan laughed loudly, jumping up to sweep her into his arms, spinning her around. See? I knew you couldn't resist me, he said, then kissed her. A deep, sweet kiss, far different from the impulsive one at the masquerade ball long ago. Their wedding took place a month later at a small villa in the Hamptons, understated, just as Scarlett wanted. Evelyn, in a tiny white dress, was carried by Lila as the flower girl, giggling as she watched her parents exchange rings. Logan, in his navy suit, kept winking at Scarlett throughout the ceremony, earning playful glares that hid her smiles. After the wedding, they returned to the penthouse, now not just an apartment, but a true home. Logan carried Evelyn to bed, singing Sweet Caroline in his familiar off-key voice, while Scarlett stood at the doorway, watching him with gentle eyes. She realized that after everything, the misunderstandings, the running, the walls she'd built, she'd found where she belonged. One early morning, as sunlight streamed through the window, Logan walked into the living room with Evelyn in his arms while Scarlett sat on the sofa with a cup of tea. He set the baby down, letting her crawl to her mom, then sat beside Scarlett, draping an arm over her shoulders. See, Hayes, he said, grinning widely, I told you, I'm the perfect man for you. Scarlett leaned her head on his shoulder, for once not arguing. Maybe you're right, she whispered, and Logan laughed, pulling both of the most important women in his life into a tight embrace. Their little family, Logan, Scarlett, and Evelyn, was proof that love, whether sparked by an impulsive kiss or forged through stubborn pursuits, could overcome any barrier to become forever. Thank you for following this heartfelt story of Soul Stories channel. Share your thoughts about the story in the comments below. If you believe that true love can withstand all trials and sometimes begins in the simplest of ways, don't forget to hit the like button and share this story with your friends. To never miss out on touching and meaningful stories, subscribe to our channel and help us spread messages of love and warmth to everyone. Let's cherish the beautiful moments